Hey, it's Dr. Carlo. In this video, I want to talk about something that I alluded to in the previous video. And I was talking about finding your purpose, your passion, and sort of exit strategy and all those things wrapped into one. And I kind of alluded in this direction, but I really want to deep dive today into what I believe is the root cause for procrastination, for impatience, for chasing shiny objects. So all of that falls into one sort of root cause. And what I mean by impatience is going through life like it's a series of street fights with immediate results versus playing life as a chess match. And there's a huge difference. Chess match, we're thinking long-term, slower moving, waiting for things to play out, building one move on the next, thinking 10 moves in advance, anticipating what the competition is going to do and so on, versus street fight, which is just like reactive, jump in and, kind of fight your way through things. And when I see people become impatient, sort of start to just chase shiny objects like a butterfly through their business, stopping all over the place, never more than a second, versus the person who sits down, is focused, and can get stuff done. There's always this one root cause, and I want to dig into that. So I watched, it's probably about almost 20 years old now, but there's a documentary about Michael Jordan, and it's called Michael Jordan to the Max. And if you watch that, there's a few things in there that I think are really interesting. And by the way, if you get into the habit of watching documentaries or reading biographies of, the top people in any field, whether it be sports or something else, business, you're going to find themes, right? You're going to find themes like in business. The theme is, the people who really pull together the greatest results. It's like, it's focus. It's passion. There's certain things that they're just good at. With this documentary about Michael Jordan, there's a piece near the beginning that talks about, why, and Michael Jordan was asked the question, what do you think is the reason why you were the best in the game? And what he said was, I fell in love with the game. I love every aspect of the game. And one of the things that is constantly brought to him by, parents of kids who they want their kids to be pro NBA players is, how much training should they do? What coach should they seek out? What should their schedule be like? And all of these tactical things versus, what Michael Jordan's advice is they just need to fall in love with the game. If they love the game, everything else will work out. They'll figure it out. The rest will just happen. And that's really the crux of it. If you love what you do, everything is easy. It just happens. So you probably started out in practice. So let's take this back to practice. You probably started out in practice sort of loving the idea of practice. Maybe you loved that initial bit of practice. I remember when I got out of school, I really loved everything about dentistry. I was just like fascinated with everything. And, a lot of us, I think, are more fascinated with the idea about what we were getting into, with a fantasy that we built in our mind of what it would be like after graduation, right? And then reality comes along and it's nothing like what you thought. And so you continue to look for ways to improve, to find that happiness in what you're doing. And so you get better and better, you take more and more courses, but then challenges keep arising, personally, professionally, and so on. And you start to get bogged down and that passion starts to wane a little. Well, the key to longevity is finding a way to fall in love with what you do. If you do that, everything else is easy. And I was talking about this in a previous video about why I made the changes that I made in my life. And when you love what you do, you don't need motivation. You don't need this constant structure, discipline to push yourself to go and do the thing. And I'm going to break this down why psychology says this is the case. You just figure it out. I mean, You won't procrastinate, you won't get impatient, you won't be chasing shiny objects. You'll actually see things through from start to finish. Stick to the plan to get the reward. You won't be chasing shiny objects from one thing to the next and not giving anything long enough time to actually see the results take place. You'll just be running from thing to thing, looking for what's going to make me happy next. So it really comes down to, you need to know yourself. You need to know who you are. And this is going to be, you may never have done this before, but I want you to spend a little time on this today and start a process. And it's not going to be a quick and easy process. It's going to be we'll dive into it a bit today and you'll make some progress for sure. But I want you to keep thinking about this. So how do you know who you are? What makes you tick? And what I recommend you do is just very simply, superficially, go look at your online search history. Go look at your YouTube search history. What are you looking at? Look at your browser history. What are you searching in Google for? What are you bookmarking, right? What kind of emails do you save and so on? What sites do you frequent? Then what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what's your favorite movie of all time? Favorite movie. Now, I want you to actually pause this and write that down, or at least think of it in your mind before you continue, because once I say what I'm going to say, I'm going to ruin this for you. So I need you to just pause the video for a second and think, what's my favorite movie of all time? If I had to, gun to my head, what movie is my favorite? So pause the video right now and do that. Okay, so I hope you did that and you know what your favorite movie was. Now, the reason why it's your favorite movie is because you identify with the main character. The main character in that movie has something that you want to become, certain traits, certain attributes, certain whatever it is about them, whether it's their charisma, their status, who knows, whatever movie you chose, but the main character is somebody you identify with, and it's someone that you are aspiring to become for some reason. So that will tell you a lot about yourself right there. That may be one of the most powerful things. Then I want you to look at your bookshelf. Look at the books that you've read, okay? So look at the whole bookshelf. Look at the books that you own. And the most telling will be, which of those books have you bought and read cover to cover? And look at them. What's the theme? What's the general pattern around these books? And then which books did you buy and read the first chapter and put it down, or not read it all? Right? We all have these on our bookshelf. Even I do. I have books that I've bought and I've not opened yet. And I have books that I've read cover to cover. And I have books I've read more than once. That's the most telling. So what books are you reading cover to cover, or reading multiple times? That will tell you a lot about yourself. Then I would suggest this. Ask the people around you, the closest people to you, your immediate family, or your spouse, or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. What do I talk about a lot? What do I not shut up about, right? If someone were to ask, if I were to ask my wife right now, it would be marketing, business growth. Those are the things I just don't shut up about, right? And it's been like that for a long time. Those are the things I love. So you have those things, and people will be able to very objectively tell you, just like that, what your things are. When you know that, again, add it to the list. Very, very telling. Now, those things that I've given you so far are the kind of where your attention goes. Now I want to look at where your money goes. So look at your credit card statements over the last year. What do you spend money on, right? What are you buying? Because people don't just willy-nilly spend money on useless stuff. You're buying something that has a meaning to you. And if there's things that you're repeatedly buying, certain themes, certain areas you're spending money, that's going to tell you a lot about yourself. So when you think about all of this put together, you'll get an idea of kind of who you are really and what's really going on in your mind. So the brain is structured such that, let's get into the psychology of this. The brain is structured such that the conscious mind sits on top of the limbic system, right? and there's not really a clear connection between the two. Your limbic brain is your primal brain, your emotion, your feelings. The conscious brain is your rational, logical, processing center. So it's like one exists on top of the other. Like the conscious mind is loaded up on top of the limbic system. And the limbic system is what makes you like certain things or dislike certain things. And it's that emotion around those things. The way it works is if you like something, it's because you have positive attachments to those things in the limbic brain. If you dislike things, it's the exact same thing. You have negative attachments to those things in the limbic brain. Now, the key is if you find out what you love or what your limbic brain has attachment to, then it's important, because no matter how much conscious effort you're putting in to say, okay, I want to do this thing, I want to do this thing, I want to do this thing, but the limbic brain says, no, I don't want to do that thing, you don't have a chance. The limbic brain will always win. So this is why when you set out in a direction to do something, but it's like, I sit down and I start doing it, or I start working on this thing and I can't get anywhere, it's because your conscious brain is trying to push the limbic brain away from instinct. That is not going to happen. It's like, how do you take the instinct out of an animal, right? That's your limbic brain. There's no chance. You will never win that fight. So the key is you have to know who you are. You have to know what's going on in your limbic system. You're completely screwed if your conscious mind is saying do this thing and your limbic brain is saying do that thing. You don't have a chance. The limbic brain will win. So you have to know yourself, and you have to pull those things into what you do. People who love what they do, like the Michael Jordan story I was talking about earlier, when you look at what Michael Jordan said, I fell in love with the game. People who love what they do vastly better than those who don't love what they do. And it's not because they're superhuman, they're better, they're smarter, they're more disciplined. It's because they just love what they do. I talked about this in the last video about, why I do what I do now. And it was about finding out this, right? Who am I? What makes me tick? What is my limbic brain driven to? What kind of a person am I? What do I love to do? And I built my life and my business structure around that. Now, I'm not saying you have to change your career. If you're a dentist like me and you hate dentistry at this point, or you realize like dentistry is not the thing I want to do, it doesn't mean you have to quit dentistry. It just means that you have to pull this knowledge into what you do, okay? So like I love building things. I love business growth. I love marketing, right? So I told you previously I've built 4 businesses and I've restructured things lately, but I love to build. And I built a really successful practice and I tripled it in 3 years. And I applied these things because when I got to realize what I love to do and I focused on what I love to do, not what I don't love to do, which is, by the way, clinical dentistry, right? Drilling on teeth for me is not a love. It's a conscious push. I make myself have to do it. If I go with what I love to do and I let my limbic brain run free, business growth and marketing, that's it. And when I made that switch, I tripled in 3 years. So this is what I'm saying. I didn't stop being a dentist. I didn't stop owning a dental practice. I didn't go and change and go on some wild mission in some other direction. I just went with the grain instead of against the grain, right? I decided to stop swimming upstream. And so, I'd rather shoot this video right now and teach you something that I've learned that's been incredibly powerful in my life than to get on a plane and go to some theme park or to a concert or something. I'd way rather be sitting right here, right now in the studio teaching this. This is what I love to do. So if you don't seek to understand yourself, then you're going to do something like you get into a profession not because you love it, but because you love the result of what you think you're going to get from it. I became a dentist because I wanted money to fund a certain lifestyle vision I had in my mind. This happens, right? And if you've done that, then you've realized very quickly that you're not happy being a dentist. And this is why people change careers. You didn't go into it for the right reasons. So, and it gets frustrating because if you don't love it, you won't do it well. If you don't do it well, you won't get the results. And so the key is to find ways to add what you love doing into your business life, into your personal life. If you can get good at the doing part, the results will follow. So I basically cut out clinical dentistry because it wasn't the thing that I was driven to do. If I just let myself go to default mode, clinical dentistry is not something I want to do. And my life and my business has shown that. I love, and I made the switch just before I tripled my practice to becoming the person who led the team, who inspired the team, who did the marketing, who created new directions for growth, and boom, look what happened, right? So this is what I'm going to challenge you to do. See, if you love the work, then you'll get the results. But if you love the results, well, you'll never get the results because you got to put in the work to get those results. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, you can't love the end product because you got to put the work in. If you love the work, the results will follow. So it's very, very straightforward, but I think it passes a lot of us by. We don't stop and make that connection. Who am I? Why am I enjoying doing certain things versus others? It's like, when you get into things like, just to take a basic example, we look at marketing. Like my marketing philosophy was always, we talk about playing chess. Dig many, many wells, and slowly but surely they will all produce. Not dig one well, if I don't get production in 24 hours, screw that, drill another well. If I don't get production in 24 hours, screw that, drill another well. Like, that's insane, right? You're playing chess. You're giving things. But see, if I didn't love marketing, if it was just something I had to do, then I wouldn't have done that. I would have been impatient. I would have been like, damn it, I'm spending money, I'm not getting a result. Like, come on. But instead, we know that everything takes time, right? If you give a marketing initiative 6 months instead of 6 days, you're going to get a ton of results compared to. So you start by getting to know yourself, and it will take some time. I keep a document of this. Like, every time I figure out a little bit more of a window into my limbic brain, who am I? What makes me tick? I keep a chronological, or sort of a, just a bullet list of who I believe I am, and it helps me to focus on when I'm creating directions, which way would I go? Well, I need to go with my grain, not against my grain. Another thing you can do besides the things I was telling you earlier to find out a little more about yourself is to take the Myers-Briggs test. So that's a very simple personality assessment, and what it will tell you is an extraordinary amount of information about who you are, what makes you tick. And you start building those things into your business and personal life, and watch what happens. I mean, when you're no longer swimming upstream, it's like you just take the training wheels off and you can just go, right? So you want to find out what's in your limbic brain by looking at your past behavior patterns. If you can look at behavior over time, it will tell you exactly what makes you tick, exactly who you are. And then you weave those things into your business and personal life and just watch what happens, right? It's like I was a clinical dentist doing dentistry every day, 4 or 5 days a week. And when I realized that for me, clinical dentistry wasn't something I wanted to do anymore, I started backing away, but I realized what I did want to do, and I started building that into my practice. Like, we had some really incredible marketing initiatives that blew up our practice, but it didn't happen overnight. It's like I loved the marketing and business growth perspective, and that's where I spent all of my time. And I just kept coming up with new things and testing and running. And, for me, I can do that all day, just like being here. This is definitely within the things I love to do. I can shoot video all day long about literally anything and love it versus going out and, going to a party or going to, some social event or concert or anything like that. I'd rather be here doing this, but I know that about myself. So if you're in a position right now where you feel stuck in your practice and you're not feeling like you're loving what you do, then I'm going to challenge you to go back and start getting to know who you are. Go through some of those things like I mentioned. Like, I'd said your YouTube search, your Google search, your bookmarks, your favorite movie, right? I'm interested to hear what that was. Books you read versus books you didn't read versus books you read again and again. What do you talk about all the time? What do you spend your money on? If you look at those things, that will give you a really good insight as to who you are And then again, take a look at the Myers-Briggs and see what makes you tick. And if there's something in there that makes you realize that you're doing something that you don't want to be doing, then delegate it. Find a way to get it done, but you don't do it. Or find a way to build that into your practice so that it happens anyway, but you don't have to do it. Like, just get smart about what you're doing. If you're feeling drained all the time, there's a reason for that, right? It's because you're working against your grain instead of working with who you are. So I'm going to challenge you now to spend some time and get things on paper around who am I and how can I build more of this into my practice. Instead of chasing shiny objects and procrastinating where you want to go, and eventually doing the work, fall in love with the work, but make it work you want to do, right? Just like I cut out a lot of clinical dentistry and stayed with what I loved about practice and got rid of what I didn't love about practice. And I still have, I still did the exact same thing. I didn't change my job title. It's like I quit dentistry. I just changed what I was doing within dentistry, because your dental practice is this ecosystem where all these moving parts are taking place, right? There's leadership, there's systems, there's training, there's marketing, there's, all of these moving parts. Some of them are for you, some of them are not for you. Figure out where you fit in that makes you happy, that gives you that, that you love the work part of that, and you'll never get bored of that. You'll never get tired, and you'll get way more results than if you're trying to do the thing. If you're trying to force order on your limbic brain to do something against your instinct, against your drive, you're not going to win over that. I can guarantee it. So take some time, take me up on this challenge, get to know yourself, and change up a little about what you do in a day and what you do in your practice. Now, you're not going to make this change tomorrow. I'm saying start thinking about this, start planting these seeds, and start looking at, like, what could I do this month or this quarter to move closer to who I am versus where I am right now. And then, by the way, if you love what you're doing, fantastic. If there are things that you don't love, then this is a way to start thinking about, how do I know what to do and how do I start making those changes, okay? So hopefully you found this one interesting. I'll see you guys next week.